Instagram. How are you? Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube and Instagram. It is a wonderful Wednesday here on Miss Hope's Reading Hour. Welcome, welcome, welcome to you all. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. So glad to be here with you. Um, so, how has your day been going so far? Hopefully, you've been having a great day. You had a good morning. Hopefully, it is still really hot, y'all. It's still real hot, y'all. Okay. I think that the heat wave isn't going to break until Friday or Saturday when it's supposed to rain. Hello to my nephew, David. Hello. So glad that you are here. Yeah, it's not going to break until then. Just a moment, my friends. Just a minute. Have to do that. All right. Because I got to be able to see everybody. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, still really hot. So, I woke up a little late this morning. Okay. Usually I wake up like super early. Woke up a little later. Oh my goodness, friends. I went outside to check my garden. I was like, man, it's already hot out here. And it was only like 7 o'clock, like 7 or 8 o'clock or something like that. I was like, oh boy, it is already hot out here. Okay. So I've been inside in the air conditioning. Now, as you all know, I told you about my first melon that was growing and looking beautiful. And I could hold it in my hand like this and it would fill up my whole hand. And then a squirrel came and took some nice little chunks out of it. So had to cut that one off because, you know, us humans, we're not going to be able to eat from that melon. Okay. So I went out and I was like, well, are there any other melons growing? I saw the little ones that are about this big. And I was like, there's none that are any bigger. And I just so happened to look down, and there it was, a melon hanging about that big. I was like, oh, yes, we got another one. I was excited. So I'm excited about that melon. And there's a cucumber. It's not mature yet, but it's about this long. It's a little curled, but it's still a good looking cucumber. Okay. So we have some harvest coming. Okay. As soon as I harvest, I will send you pictures and let you know. So, welcome to all of my Facebookers, my YouTubers, my Instagrammers. Welcome. So glad that you're here. So glad for anyone who has subscribed on YouTube. If you are a first timer on YouTube, please, oh, please take some time because we're going to go through some good books, friends. We're going to go through some good books. Okay. So take a moment and subscribe. Okay. Hit that subscribe button. Also on Facebook, if you want to join Miss Hope's Reading Hour, you type it in just like it is on our screen. Oh, right here. So those of you on Instagram, you can't see that. All right. So just like it is on the screen, that's how you type it in YouTube, and you will find Miss Hope's Reading Hour. Okay. So go on there and click to join, and you are in the Facebook group. Click subscribe. You are subscribed to the YouTube channel. In Instagram, what you do is you type in Miss Hope's Reading Hour, all one word, no apostrophes, no periods, no nothing, just all one word, Miss Hope's Reading Hour. And guess what? Our logo will come up and you will be a part of Miss Hope's Reading Hour. Okay? So with all of that being said, as I told you before, Miss Hope's Reading Hour Library has gone from this to this. So, Miss Hope's Reading Hour Library is going to have to be beefed up again. Now, for those of you on Facebook and YouTube, you can see the ticker that is down at the bottom of the screen with the Cash App handle and the new Miss Hope's Reading Hour email address. Instagram, would you like to know what it is? Of course, I will tell you. If you would like to donate to Miss Hope's Reading Hour Library, you can donate by Cash App. The Cash App handle, what is it? I shall tell you. It is Hope GM, HOPEGM, all one word, all lowercase. So that is what you put into Cash App, and any amount that you donate will be used for Miss Hope's Reading Hour Library. Also, you can send an online gift card to Amazon or any other book retailer that you would like to use, and you would send those gift cards to this email. It is Miss Hope's RH@gmail.com. That is Miss Hope's Miss Hope's RH@gmail.com. One more time, Miss Hope's RH for Reading Hour @gmail.com. And that is where you will send your gift cards for Miss Hope's Reading Hour. Okay? Now, let us get to the books, shall we? So, of course, if you are on the Facebook group or the Instagram page, you saw the teaser book for today. So, the teaser book for today, just to let you know, today we're working with classics, classic books, books that have been around for a good long while. So, one of the books, I'm sorry, there's a sticker on here. I may not be able to get that off. Oh, nope, I can't. So, this is one of my finds. Actually, both of them were finds from my school building. Thank you so much, Martha Washington School and ACE After School Program for helping me with my finds. So, our first book, a movie has been made about this, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. This is our teaser book for today, and it is a classic, okay? So, this book is written by Judy Barrett and drawn by Ron Barrett. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, okay? And our next classic that we will be reading today, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. How many people have heard this story before? Okay? And it's a classic and it's still good. Still good, people. Okay? So, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Okay? And this book is retold and illustrated by James Marshall. Okay? Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And finally today, we are at the end of Crenshaw by Mrs. Catherine Applegate. We are at the end. Can you believe it? This is all that we have left. Look at this. Look at this. This is it. That's it. And we're done after today. So on Friday, I will be introducing our new chapter book. Okay. It's going to be one of the selections that we had. I know, David, we're at the end, but we're finally going to find out what happens with the whole family and Crenshaw and stuff. Okay. Now let us get to our teaser book. Wait a minute, no, I'm sorry. Yes, we are going to do the teaser book first. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, written by Judy Barrett and drawn by Ron Barrett. So book this book was written in 1978. I told you, a classic, but it is still good. All right. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we could each eat. And Grandpa was doing the flipping. Oh, I want you guys to be able to see. Just a second. Let me do this. I want to make sure you guys can see. Seconds later, something flew through the air, headed toward the kitchen ceiling, and landed right on Henry. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. Hey, listen, if it didn't end up on the floor, and I'm going to be the one to eat it anyway, why not go ahead and eat it? That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall tale bedtime story he'd ever told. Across an ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 small ocean, there lay the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. Such an odd name for a place, right? Chew and Swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees, and gardens around them, a schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. But there was no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly need. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day, at breakfast, at lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. Can you imagine that? That would be pretty awesome. Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain. It never snowed snow. It never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas. And sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. Can you imagine that? I mean, windstorms of hamburgers, though that sounds tasty, that could possibly be really, really, really painful. Okay. We don't want that. The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would even hear a prediction for the next day's food. When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, napkins with them. The way they would always be prepared, that way they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, people took them home and put them in their refrigerators in case they got hungry between meals. That is amazing. You never got to go to the market. Just wait for it to rain. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny side up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast. And most of the time, it rained milk afterward. For lunch one day, frankfurters, or hot dogs, already in their rolls, blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby. Then the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. That's pretty awesome. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by gradual clearing, with a wonderful jello setting in the west. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned up after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats. Then they emptied some into the surrounding ocean for the fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for the people's flower gardens. How progressive of them! They seem to be very good recyclers. The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. People were getting frightened. Violent storms blew up frequently. Awful things were happening. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. There were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds and some without. There was white bread and rye and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were damaged, and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was full of floating rolls. To help out, the people piled up as much bread as they could into their backyards. The birds picked at it a bit, but it just stayed there and got staler and staler. There was a storm of pancakes one morning and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they had to close the school. Can you imagine a pancake that big? I mean, I like pancakes, but that's a bit much, friends. I like them, but I don't know. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a stomach ache. There was an awful salt and pepper wind, accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess. There were seeds and pulp everywhere. That is crazy. Now, of course, tomatoes are good with salt and pepper, but not when it's coming at you like a tornado. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses had been badly damaged by giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up, and there was no more school for the children. So a decision was made to abandon the town of Chunswallow. It was a matter of survival. We just can't live here, people. We just can't do it. The people glued together the giant pieces of stale bread sandwich style with peanut butter, took the absolute necessities with them, and set sail on their rafts to a new land. Now, that is a big piece of bread. They had to make boats out of bread. That's pretty amazing. Let's see where they're going to go. After being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town, which welcomed them. The bread was held up the bread had held up surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary houses for themselves out of it. The children began school again, and the adults all tried to find places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at the supermarket. They found it odd that the food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes, cans, and bottles. Meat that had to be cooked was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again. And nobody dared to go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what had happened to it. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remembered his goodnight kiss. Wow. With houses built of bread, you still got to go shopping at the supermarket. The next morning, we woke up to see snow falling outside our window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter at the top, and we could almost smell the mashed potatoes. What was the pat of butter? Oh, that was the sun. The end. That is kind of crazy, right? Can you imagine now not having to worry about going to the market, that would be amazing. To not have to worry about going to the market, all of your food just comes down from the sky. That would be awesome. I would be down for that. Okay. But then when the weather gets kind of crazy, you're like, oh man, like what do we do? Right? See, then that's a problem. That is a problem. We can't do that. Because the big pieces of bread, like so big that they had never seen them that big before. I think I would just we'll settle for we'll settle for the supermarket. Because then when you think about it, you're like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So, just a moment, my friends. I had to make sure my Facebook friends were on. I wasn't quite sure. So, our next classic, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Oh, I'm sorry, Asha. Yeah, the first one's over. You can go back and look at it. So, this one is retold and illustrated by James Marshall. Now, let's find out when this story originally came out. Well, it says this book, just this one, was first printed in 1988. But Goldilocks and the Three Bears is much older than that. It's much older than that. All right. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Let's see if we can get some music to go along with this. Let's see. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once there was a little girl named Goldilocks. What a sweet child, said someone new in town. That's what you think, said a neighbor. Oh, wait a minute. I don't know if this is the Goldilocks we remember. Let's see. One morning, Goldilocks' mother sent her to buy muffins in the next village. You must promise not to take the shortcut through the forest, she said. I've heard that bears live there. I promise, said Goldilocks. But to tell the truth, Goldilocks was one of those naughty little girls who do exactly as they please. Goldilocks, you said you wouldn't go in the forest. Let's see what happens. Meanwhile, in a clearing deeper inside the forest, in a charming house, all their own, a family of brown bears was sitting down to breakfast. Very nice little house you have there, bears. Patooey! Cried big old Papa Bear. This porridge is scalding. I've burned my tongue. I'm dying, cried Baby Bear. Now really, said Mama Bear, who was of medium size. That is quite enough. I know, said Papa Bear. Why don't we go for a spin while the porridge is cooling? Excellent, said Mama Bear. So they got on their rusty old bicycle and went off. minutes later, Goldilocks arrived at the bear's house. She walked right in without even bothering to knock. On the dining room table, there were 3 inviting bowls of porridge. "I don't mind if I do," said Goldilocks, helping herself to the biggest bowl. "I don't mind if I do, ma'am. You just walked up in somebody else's house." Okay. But the porridge in the biggest bowl was much too hot. "Patooey," said Goldilocks, and she spat it out. Next, she tasted the porridge in the medium-sized bowl, but that porridge was much too cold. Then Goldilocks tasted the porridge in the little bowl, and it was just right. Neither too hot nor too cold. In fact, she liked it so much that she gobbled it all up. She didn't even save the baby bear any. Feeling full and satisfied, Goldilocks thought it would be great fun to have a look around. Right away, she noticed a lot of coarse brown fur everywhere. "They must have kitties," she said. In the parlor, there were 3 chairs. "I don't mind if I do," she said, climbing into the biggest one. But the biggest chair was much too hard, and she couldn't get comfortable. She must have tried every which way to get comfortable. Child, she upside down. That's how I feel sometimes. Next, she sat in the medium-sized chair, but that chair was too soft, and she thought she might never get out of it. Then Goldilocks sat in the little chair, and that was just right. Neither too hard nor too soft. In fact, she liked it so much that she rocked and rocked until the chair fell to pieces. "Oh, now come on, Goldilocks. You done broke the baby bear's chair." "Oh, now come on." Now, all that rocking left Goldilocks quite tuckered out. "I could take a little snooze," she said. So she went to look for a comfy place to nap. Upstairs were 3 beds. "I don't mind if I do," said Goldilocks. And she got into the biggest one. But the head of the biggest bed was much too high. It looks like a slide. I don't see how that could be comfortable. Next, she tried the medium-sized bed, but the head of that bed was much too low. Then Goldilocks tried the little bed, and it was just right. Soon she was all nice and cozy and sound asleep. She did not hear the bears come home. Yeah, she had a good old time. The 3 bears were mighty hungry, but when they went in for breakfast, they could scarcely believe their eyes. "Somebody has been in my porridge," said Papa Bear. "Somebody has been in my porridge," said Mama Bear. "Somebody has been in my porridge," said Baby Bear, "and eaten it all up. Didn't save me none." Man. In the parlor, the 3 bears were in for another little surprise. "Somebody has been sitting in my chair," said Papa Bear. "Somebody has been sitting in my chair," said Mama Bear. "Somebody has been sitting in my chair," said the Baby Bear. and broken it to smithereens. Come on now. Baby Bear is not getting getting the short end of the stick right now. The three bears went upstairs on tiptoe, not knowing what they would discover. At first, everything seemed fine. But then Papa Bear laid down on his big brass bed. "Somebody has been laying in my bed," he cried, and he was not amused. Come on now. Oh, he looked mad. "Egads!" cried Mama Bear. "Somebody has been lying in my bed." "Look," cried Baby Bear. "Somebody has been lying in my bed." And she's still there. Baby Bear is not having any good luck today. "Now see here," roared Papa Bear. Goldilocks woke up with a start, and her eyes nearly popped out of her head. But before the bears could demand a proper explanation, Goldilocks was out of bed, out the window, and on her way home. "Who was that little girl?" asked Baby Bear. "I have no idea," said Mama Bear. "But I hope we never see her again." "I would think not. After she messed up your house, okay?" And they never did. Look at her. She's gone. She's like, "I'm out of here. Next time, I'll listen to my mom." The end. What a funny take on the classic, okay? Now, that'll teach you, friends. If your mom tells you to go somewhere, go where she tells you to go. Don't take a shortcut anywhere. Especially not when there's bears. Ooh, it is hot, friends. Especially not when there's bears, okay? Because you never know what's going to happen. Now, what we have been waiting for, okay? We are at the end of Crenshaw. There are some people who are really excited about the reading of this book, okay? So we are at the end so far. Jackson has told Marisol about Crenshaw, okay? Told her about Crenshaw, told her about what's going on with his family, that they're probably going to be moving away because they don't have enough money to stay in their apartment. And Crenshaw is just around, just flipping around and everything while Marisol is there. And she wishes that she could see Crenshaw. But Crenshaw, later on, the night before that they're supposed to move, clues Jackson in on some information. So, where do imaginary friends go while they're waiting for the kids to want them to come back? They're in a waiting room, apparently. And they know all of the other imaginary friends. He has met Marisol's imaginary friend, and come to find out, his dad had an imaginary friend. A dog who played the guitar, I believe. So let's find out what happens with all of these imaginary friends and Jackson and his family, along with Crenshaw. The last installment of Crenshaw. I couldn't fall asleep that night. Sounds echoed off the walls of our empty apartment. Shadows loomed and shrank. A question kept nagging at me. Why did things have to be this way? Life isn't always fair, Crenshaw had said. His words reminded me of an interesting nature fact Miss Malone had taught us last year in fourth grade. Bats, she said, usually share food with each other. She was talking about vampire bats, the ones that slice open sleeping mammals in the dark of night. They don't actually suck blood. It's more like they lap it up, which is awesome enough. But the really amazing part, the no way part, is that when they get back into their caves, they share with the unlucky bats who haven't found anything to eat. They actually puke up warm blood into the hungry bats' mouths. If that's not the coolest nature fact ever, I don't know what is. Miss Malone said maybe bats are altruists, which means they're sharing to help the other bats, even if it's a risk. She said some scientists say yes, some say no. Scientists love to disagree about things. Miss Malone looked at me then, because even though it was only like the third week of school, she had already pegged me pretty well. Jackson, she said, maybe you'll be the one to settle the great are bats nice guys debate. I said probably not, because I wanted to be a cheetah or a manatee or a dog scientist. But I would keep bats in mind as a backup plan. Miss Malone said something else about bats that day. She said that sometimes, she said sometimes, oh, I'm sorry. She said she sometimes wondered if maybe bats are better human beings than human beings are. I must have finally fallen asleep because I woke from a horrible nightmare. I was panting. Tears streamed down my cheeks. The moon was wrapped in a fog. Crenshaw placed a paw on my shoulder. Gently, he butted his head against mine. Bad dream? He asked. I don't remember it, really. I was in a cave, I think, and I was yelling for someone to help me, and nobody would listen. I'll help, said Crenshaw. I'll listen. I turned to him, looking in his eyes. I could see myself reflected. I can't go with my family, I said. My own words surprised me. I can't live in the minivan again. I don't want to have to worry anymore. I'm tired, Crenshaw. I know, he said. I know. I blinked. The answer was obvious. I had to run away. It wasn't going to be much of a trip. I'd just have to ask Marisol if I could stay with her. She had plenty of room. I could help her around the house. I leaped up. Crenshaw watched me, but he didn't say a word. It wasn't like I had a lot to pack. I grabbed my pillows, my keepsakes bag, some clothes, and my toothbrush. The way I figured it, I'd go over to Marisol's house before my family woke up. Marisol was an early riser. She wouldn't mind. It was hard to find a piece of paper and a pencil, but I managed. Aretha and Crenshaw watched me chew on the pencil as I tried to decide what to write. What should I say? I asked, as much to myself as to Crenshaw. Tell the truth to the person who matters most, said Crenshaw. You. And so I did. Dear Mom and Dad, here are the facts. I'm tired of not knowing what's going to happen. I'm old enough to understand things. I hate living this way. I'm going to live with Marisol for a while. When you figure things out, maybe I can join you. Love, Jackson. P.S. Aretha likes to sleep on a pillow, so don't forget. P.P.S. Robin needs to know what's happening too. In an envelope, I put $10 I'd made from walking the Gouchers Dachshunds. On the outside, I wrote, to cover 2 unfortunate incidents where I used very bad judgment. Please give $7 to Safeway for 2 jars of Gerber chicken and rice, and $3 to Pet Food Express for a cookie shaped like a cat. Tap, tap. It was Robin knocking at my door. Jax? I dropped my pencil. Go to sleep, Robin. It's late. It's scary in my room. It'll be morning soon, I said. I'll just wait here by your door, Robin said. I have Spot to keep me company. I looked at Crenshaw. He held up his paws. Don't ask me. Human children are infinitely more complicated than kittens. Please go back to bed, Robin, I pleaded. I don't mind waiting, she said. I stood. I went to the door. I hesitated. I opened it. Robin came in, she and Spot, her pillow, and her Lyle book. I looked at her. She looked at my note. I crumpled it up and tossed it aside. We read Lyle together until we both fell asleep. When I awoke, Robin, Aretha, and Crenshaw were spread out on my mattress. Robin and Aretha were both drooling a little. Sitting on the floor across from us were my mom and dad. They had on their bathrobes. My dad had my crumpled note flattened on his lap. Good morning, my mom whispered. I didn't answer her. I didn't even look at her. Fact, my dad said softly. Parents make mistakes. A lot, my mom added. Fact, my dad said. Parents try not to burden their kids with grown-up problems, but sometimes that's hard to do. Robin stirred, but she didn't awake. Well, it's hard being a kid too, I said. I was glad I sounded so angry. It's hard not to know what's happening. I know, said my dad. I don't want to go back to that time, I said, my voice getting louder with each word. I hated you for putting us through it. It wasn't fair. Other kids don't have to sleep in their car. Other kids aren't hungry. I knew that wasn't true. I knew that lots of other kids had it worse than I did, but I didn't care. Why can't you just be like other parents? I demanded. I was crying hard. I gasped for breath. Why does it have to be this way? My mom came over and tried to hug me. I wouldn't let her. We're so sorry, sweetheart, she whispered. My dad sniffed. He cleared his throat. I looked over at Crenshaw. He was awake, watching me carefully. I took a deep, shuddery breath. I know you're sorry, but that doesn't change the way things are. You're right, said my dad. No one talked for a few minutes. The only sound was Crenshaw purring gently, but only I could hear him. Slowly, very softly, I began to feel my anger changing into something softer. It's okay, I said finally. It's really okay. I just want you to tell me the truth from now on. That's all. That's fair, my dad said. More than fair, my mom agreed. I'm getting older, I said. I can handle it. Well, then here's another fact, said my dad. Last night I called the guy who wanted to buy our guitars. He told me his brother owns a music store down by the mall. He needs an assistant manager. His brother also has a garage apartment behind the store that won't be occupied for a month. It'd give us a roof over our heads for a little while anyway. Maybe some more work. That's good, right? I asked. It's good, my dad said, but it's not certainty. Here's the thing, Jackson. Life is messy. It's complicated. It would be nice if life were always like this. He drew an imaginary line that kept going up and up. But life is actually more like this. And he made a jiggly line that went up and down like a mountain range. You just have to keep trying. What's that expression? Asked my mom. Fall down 7 times, get up 8. More fortune cookie wisdom, said my dad. But it's true. My mom patted my back. Starting today, we'll be honest with you. We'll be as honest with you as we can. Is that what you want? I looked over at Crenshaw. He nodded. Yes, I said. That's what I want. All right, then, said my dad. It's a deal. Fact, said my mom. I'd really like some breakfast. Let's go see what we can do about that. The music store looked pretty run down. We waited in the car while my parents went to talk to the owner. It took a long time. Robin and I played cereal ball with her T-ball cap and some sugarless bubblegum. Remember those purple jelly beans? Robin asked. The magic ones? Robin nodded. They were maybe not so magic. I sat up straighter. What do you mean? They were from Kylie's birthday party, Robin pulled on her ponytail. I just wanted you to think they were magic. But there's no such thing, of course. I don't know, I said. Could be magic happens sometimes. Really? Robin asked. Really, I said. When my parents came out of the store, they were smiling. They shook a man's hand, and he gave my dad a set of keys. Got the job, my dad said. It's part-time, but with everything else, it should help. And we can stay in that apartment for a month anyway. Hopefully by then, we'll come up with yet another plan. We really wanted to keep you and Robin at the same school. We're going to do our best, but there's no guarantees. I know, I said. Even though it didn't solve all our problems, I felt a little better. The garage apartment was tiny, with only one bedroom. There was no TV, and the carpeting was wary beige. Still, it had a roof and a door and a family who needed it. The article I read about imaginary friends said they often appear during times of stress. It said that as kids mature, they tend to outgrow their pretend world. But Crenshaw told me something else. He said imaginary friends never leave. He said they were on call, just waiting in case they were needed. I said that sounded like a lot of waiting around, and he said he didn't mind. It was his job. The first night in our new apartment, I slept on a chair in the living room. I woke up in the middle of the night. Everyone else was sleeping soundly. As I headed to the bathroom to get a drink, I was surprised when I heard the water running. I knocked, and when no one answered, I opened the door a crack. Bubbles floated and danced. Steam billowed. But through the mist, I could make out Crenshaw in the shower, fashioning a bubble beard. Do you have any purple jelly beans? He asked. Before I could answer, I felt my dad's hand on my shoulder. Jackson, you okay? I turned and hugged him hard. I love you, I said, and that's a fact. I love you too, he whispered. I smiled, recalling the question I'd been meaning to ask. Dad, I said, have you ever known anyone by the name of Finian? Did you say Finian? He said with a faraway look in his eyes. I closed the bathroom door, and as I did, I caught another glimpse of Crenshaw. He was standing on his head, with his tail covered with bubbles. I squeezed my eyes shut and counted to 10, slowly. 10 seconds seemed like the right amount of time to be sure, for me to be sure he wasn't going to leave. When I opened my eyes, Crenshaw was still there. There had to be a logical explanation. There's always a logical explanation. Meantime, I was going to enjoy the music. Meantime, glasses. I was going to enjoy the magic while I could. The end. Oh, we did it again. We got to the end of Crenshaw. Wasn't that a good book? Wasn't that a good story? So, how did Crenshaw help Jackson and his family? Crenshaw helped Jackson to be able to tell his truth. That is how he helped Jackson. That is how he helped Jackson to tell the truth that was in his heart. Tell his parents about his worries, not keep everything inside, which isn't always the best thing to do. Sometimes when you're hurting and when you're questioning and when you're worried as a kid, you have parents, sometimes you just got to go to them and say, Mom, Dad, Grandmom, Grandpop, whoever it is that you live with, I'm worried. I'm scared. What's going to happen? Can you just tell me what's going on? And they will tell you. Parents aren't perfect. No person is perfect. But the one thing that they do always do is try to keep you from worrying too much. But sometimes when you know that something's going on and they don't tell you, it makes you worry a little more, right? So sometimes you just got to let them know. Can you tell me what's going on? I can tell something's wrong, and I don't want you to worry by yourself. And it would help me to feel better if I kind of knew what was going on. He helped him by letting him know that he had a friend who was there for him and that it's okay to tell the truth about how you are feeling, even when you're in a really tough situation. Oh, another goodie. Catherine Applegate, Crenshaw. Wonderful. Ricky, I'm so glad you came on. Oh, unfortunately, you're going to have to watch it a little later because we are at the end of Miss Hope's Reading Hour. Instagram in a few moments, you will be going off. Again, if you would like to donate to Miss Hope's Reading Hour library, because we're coming down to the wire of the books we have left, you can donate via Cash App by typing in Hope GM. That is my Cash App handle, HOPEGM, all one word, all lowercase, or by sending a gift card from any book retailer that you would like to use to gift us books. And you can send those gift cards to the email Miss Hopes RH. So it's Miss Hopes RH, MSHOPESRH @gmail.com. Okay. So, my friends, thank you so much for joining me here on a wonderful Wednesday. Wonderful, hot, steamy, but great if you are inside with some cool lemonade and some air conditioning. Okay. Even a fan, fans work, especially when you're sitting still. Okay. So until next time, until our fabulous Friday, I will see you next time on Miss Hope's Reading Hour. When? 3 o'clock, right here, 3 p.m. on Fabulous Friday on Miss Hope's Reading Hour. Until then, bye for now.